Yet another image that Bev would have to learn to live with. You all right, Bev? What do you think? She turned her face to Byford. In itself, the question wasn't insolent. Its delivery was definitely borderline, and judging by the look the detective superintendent was returning, she might have just overstepped the mark. It wouldn't do to get on the man's wrong side. Supportive senior officers were like snowmen in the desert. She gave a half smile to break the ice and cracked it further with a full apology. That was out of order. Sorry, Gov. She was relieved to see a softening of his features, but it didn't alter the harsh reality of the violence before them. 15, you say? Bev heard the doubt in Byford's voice. She wasn't surprised. The victim appeared older, the long blonde hair, the on-the-pull clothes barely concealing the womanly curves. Bev's initial estimate had been late teens, early 20s even. Some kids grow up fast, sir. She watched as he edged closer. They were in a dip, and the body, screened by shrubs, wouldn't have been visible from the footpath. She flinched as she saw Byford recoil. She didn't blame him. Any decent man would. The girl's long legs were splayed and stained. The tacky, crotchless knickers, more shocking than her near-nakedness. There was dried blood and excrement on the inside of her thighs, the stink of human waste in every sense. Bev averted her eyes, not out of embarrassment or disgust, but in respect for the girl's shattered dignity. Animals, she hissed. What did you say? Nothing. Aware he was still watching, she tried focusing on routine procedure rather than what appeared to be random savagery. She turned the pages of her notebook, but the tremor in her hands did little to calm her thoughts. Come on, Bev, what is it? She glanced at this big man, who always had an eye for the small detail. But how could she tell Byford what was wrong when she could hardly explain it to herself? All she knew was that in 8 years on the force, nothing had hit her so hard as the senseless obscenity of this young girl's death. And she'd seen worse, far worse. She'd cracked sick gags at murder scenes along with the rest of them. It was a defense mechanism, essential for survival, but it was more than that. It was part of the culture. Fit in or fuck off. Bev had no intention of looking weak. No prob, Gov, she answered softly. She knew his nod of acknowledgement was as convincing as her words of assurance, but they were all she had at the moment. She broke eye contact, glanced down at the notes of her brief interview with the caretaker. Byford resumed his scrutiny of the scene. She waited in silence, knowing he wouldn't want to talk until he'd absorbed the details, the camera in his brain snapping a series of pin-sharp stills. She'd worked with him for nearly 3 years, was familiar with his ways, followed most of them. He was 52, but she reckoned he'd only started to look it in the last 18 months or so. The black hair was greying, but there was still plenty of it. Bit more of him, too, she realised. She hadn't noticed the slight paunch before. Mind, at 6'2", he was hardly Michelin Man. Even if she could see his face, it wouldn't tell her what he was thinking. She wondered anyway. His kids were grown up, but he was still a father. Parents? He asked. Her eyes widened. If he was into clairvoyancy, she'd soon be out of a job. As to Michelle's lineage, the words Bev had in mind were 4-lettered and not the kind you'd use in front of Granny. She gave a snort instead. A Morris special. He lifted an eyebrow. Do go on. She noted the sarcasm. Not like Byford, that. He must be picking up bad habits. Mother and Father of the Year award? She asked. Missed it by a whisker. She consulted her notes again. According to the caretaker, a bloke called Jack Goddard, Michelle was in care. She was taken in when she was about 12.